Hello,
Hi, I am Carmen,
and I'm Julie.
and today we're going to be talking to you about engaging adult learners. So our learning objectives for today is to be able to compare and contrast student engagement versus student involvement, build a deeper understanding of the various ways you can initiate student engagement, and identify some techniques to promote student engagement that you can use in the classroom.
Some key terms that we wanted to go over with you are student involvement and student engagement. Student involvement is the extent to which students are involved in their educational experience. It can be observed through behaviors such as participation or attendance, and it generally requires a minimum amount of effort. Student engagement is the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, passion students show for their learning. And it's the amount of physical and psychological time and energy a student devotes to the experience. If we're thinking about the difference between involvement and engagement, involvement is being invited to the party. Engagement is being asked to dance.
So why is this important? This is important, student engagement, because it helps you understand what an engaged student looks like. And we know that student engagement leads to persistence. So it's important to understand student engagement so that we can continue to have students persist in their learning and educational experiences. As you, as a QMRA trainer, this is going to help you build strategies for engaging students with your instruction.
This module focuses on student engagement, and it fits right in the student engagement learner practice arm of the training theory. So we want to think about where this training fits in this course goals to instruction breakdown that we are using in these modules. So again, just to review or go over for the first time, course goals. What should my students know, feel, or be able to do by the end of the course? Learning objectives. What tangible skills, knowledge, attitudes, behaviors will my students gain after they engage in the instructional activities? Assessment. How well do students demonstrate their learning? And is instruction helping students to achieve those learning objectives? And then curriculum and instruction. How will I assist my students in achieving those goals and objectives?
So from goals to instruction, this model focuses on student engagement as part of curriculum and instruction. And again, as Julie just mentioned, how will you assist students in achieving goals and objectives? Okay, so right here we have why student engagement. So across ages, the more engaged and hopeful a student feels, the better their performance and outcomes.
If we look at this example graph from a Gallup study, in green on the right, we have the most engaged, the most hopeful students. On the left in gray, we have the least engaged and the least hopeful students. And across multiple outcomes, what we see is that the more engaged and hopeful students have higher outcomes than the least engaged and hopeful. So engagement and hopefulness leads to higher performance and better outcomes.
So we have a simple view of student engagement. So you can engage with students cognitively, and this attends to spending mental effort on learning tasks. So how do you think about these learning tasks, and how are you mentally engaged? Effective, this is investment in an emotional reaction to learning. So this is when you feel hopeful, this is when you feel a sense of belonging, this is when you have an emotional attachment to the learning that is occurring. And then we have behavioral engagement. That's when you are actively responding to the learning task. You're actually doing something. There's a behavior associated with that particular learning task. So here you would see we have a couple students across the spectrum. And what we wanted to point out is that anyone under 30 has actually lived in the world of cell phones, internet, and social media. Anyone under 40 went to college in 2002 or after, and they have cell phones, internet, and personal computers. And so what we want to point out is that the generation baby boomers are very different from Generation Z. And so we have to adapt our learning styles. We have to adapt our training styles, our educational practices to use these tools in order to effectively engage students who are now coming into our educational spaces.
And the technology exists, so we might as well use it. We can use it with all generations. It's there, but we have to recognize that familiarity with tools is going to be different depending upon who we're teaching.
So cognitive engagement, again, this increased students' attending to and spending mental effort on learning tasks. When students are cognitively engaged, they ask better questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They develop critical thinking, and they think about from procedure to problem solving. So they move from the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to actually understanding how all of those components work together to solve a particular problem.
And figuring it out for themselves. Let's talk about emotional engagement. This emotional engagement will increase students' investment in and emotional responses to learning tasks. And when students are emotionally engaged, they are invested in doing the tasks. They demonstrate interest, enjoyment, curiosity, and sense of belonging. And it's worth noting that interest, curiosity, sense of belonging, etc., are linked to persistence, whether or not a student will finish a learning task, complete a course, or remain within a career.
And then we have behavioral engagement. And this is an increased students' active response to the learning task. So when students are behaviorally engaged, they pay attention. They, again, ask better questions, and they often seek help, which is really important when we're dealing with something as complex as what we're trying to teach.
Absolutely.
So now is your turn. So please read the objective. Given all necessary data and models, right? The students will be able to calculate the risk of pathogen exposure within 10% deviation from the known risk. So what we would like you to do is pause the video, take about 10 minutes to think about what techniques you would use to engage students. As we know, as we talked about previously, there's cognitive, affect, and behavior engagement. So go ahead, pause the video, do the task, and then come right back.
So in conclusion, there are 3 ways to engage students: cognitive, affective, and behavior. We hope that you have practiced thinking about what this might look like in your classrooms. And you should consider who your students are when you are designing these engagements to most effectively take advantage of technologies and other tools that exist and what your students are bringing to the classroom. Thank you, Carmen.
All right, thanks, Julie.